Hi there, welcome to Tarotland Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Leo energy. And like usual on this channel, we're going to do two rows. The top row I refer to as high vibe Leo energy, the bottom row a more worldly, shadowy Leo energy, because we've all got our dualistic nature of free will and we have to make decisions in our life. And in high vibe energy, there might be some things we'd like to do in our life, having hope and faith and belief in ourselves and in our dreams, but our more worldly, shadowy Leo energy can kind of hold us back and manipulate us. We can get caught up in our fear and our insecurity and our pride or our ego or our immature nature. And, we have to face our fears to move forward in life differently. And we kind of have to believe in ourselves if we want to live life differently or think life differently or go pursue a new job or friendship or something like that. Have to maybe, well, we'll see what comes out with it. But anyway, some people could be struggling within themselves to right now. And we have free will. Which one is my truth? Do I have more hope and faith and belief in myself and love? Do I not? And so some people could be struggling within themselves. But other people have decided to move forward differently. And other people have decided not to. We all move forward in life and are ready to kind of face our fears or be more authentically ourselves or shine our light or reveal the truth or something at different times. So anyway, that's kind of what we're going to do. And this might be something that's particularly something that people who are a Leo sun sign or have lots of Leo significant placements in their astrological chart might be dealing with, but we all tap into Leo energy because we tap into all the different zodiac signs in a more high vibe, worldly or shadowy way. And so just listen to your intuition about where you might be in the story and your Leo energy and where other people might be. The reason for the top rose reading is the Ace of Cups, and it's also the reason why the reading came out. In high vibe, the Ace of Cups would be that people in their Cancer, Pisces, and Scorpio energy are more emotionally aligned with their more hopeful, believing nature. And they could have been in relationships with people that in their emotional nature, they're kind of maybe a little more aligned with their worldly nature. And so, we kind of get in some mismatched relationships sometimes. And we meet all sorts of people in the world, at work. Not everybody's kind of a more hopeful, believing person in hope and faith and belief in love or being just and fair or emotionally mature. And the same way in the workplace and in social settings, right? So we have the Five of Wands, the Seven of Wands, the Six of Pentacles, and the Nine of Wands. So the Five of Wands is Leo energy. We can have inner conflict about the Seven of Wands, can talk about standing up for ourselves. And between the 5 and the 7 is the difference is the Two of Wands, which is we had a dream. And also the card between the 5 and the 7 is the Six of Wands. There was something we had been invested in or a way of viewing life that we viewed as victorious and successful and things that we wanted to move forward victoriously and successfully. We had a dream, but again, kind of emotionally, what kind of drove and motivated us and why people are motivated to move forward in life can be different. Maybe one person doesn't mind might have inner conflict and could be more defensive. The 5, the 6, and the 7 are all Leo energy. Some people like to be in a relationship. There can be love there, but maybe one person is more defensive and one person is more inspired to have hope and faith and belief. And if one person would want to keep moving forward in the relationship, but they kind of still want to be defensive, and the other person wants them to be more authentic or open or hopeful or believing, then we kind of harness our Leo energy a little differently. And then the Six of Pentacles can maybe be about doing more equal give and take in a relationship. The sixes can be about, doing equal give and take. And some people could be defensive of doing that. Maybe they have inner conflict about maybe just being more just or fair in a relationship. It could be about exchanging financial resources with someone, and some people are still more defensive of kind of sharing their financial resources, but it can also be their time, their energy, and their effort. So people could like to be in a relationship or be in a job with each other, but again, some people could be more defensive to like equal give and take in a relationship, where they kind of could think that they should be a little more indulged in the relationship, a little more competitive is what the Five of Wands can talk about, still kind of defending their more egoic, defensive nature. And sometimes we have to work with those people in our different relationships that we're in with people at work, friendship, community, whatever. And, if other people seem to have inner conflict about kind of doing more equal give and take with us in whatever social setting it is, eventually some of the high vibe people don't want to keep dealing with them that much. If you're not willing to work with me cooperatively and do equal give and take, well, I might be kind of defensive to wanting to work with you if I feel like you're more competitive or prideful or manipulative. And then we have the Nine of Wands. And again, the Nine of Wands can be, again, that what do we stand up for and defend? And the nines and the tens can also be that some people are ready to complete a cycle. We live our life at a phase of life, we learn lessons in life, and then we're ready to kind of move forward a little bit differently based on the lessons that we've learned in life. And some people are more inspired to invest more of their time, energy, and effort into people who, the Nine of Wands can be people who have learned lessons in life, because the Nine of Wands is Sagittarius energy about higher learning and education. I want to work together with people and stand up and defend working together with people who seem to have better boundaries within themselves. When we're going to work together with other people, we want them to have good boundaries to their more shadowy Leo nature. Again, competitive, maybe prideful, maybe defensive, maybe manipulative. If they're more emotionally invested in their competitive nature, well, who really wants to work with them that much, right? If they're competitive, if they're prideful, if they're manipulative, I think I'm going to be defensive to you, and I'm going to defend the people in my life and in the workplace and in the community who seem to have learned some lessons in life about doing more equal give and take. And the difference between the Five of Wands and the Nine of Wands is the Four of Wands. And the Four of Wands can represent the foundation that people operate from. In our dualistic nature, where we can act this way or act that way, if there's people who operate from a foundation of more, I love investing in my more egoic nature of defensiveness or competitiveness or manipulative nature or full of myself nature, it's like other people who have kind of stood up to their own shadowy nature and gotten more balance within themselves. And, high vibe Leo is about tempering your more worldly, beastly, egoic, self-centered nature, immature nature. And I've detached from that foundation. I have learned lessons in life. And the Six of Pentacles is also Taurus energy, which has to do with our philosophy of life. We all were more immature, prideful, defensive, immature, whatever, But some people stood up to their more shadowy nature to get more balance within themselves and align with being inspired by their more emotionally mature, loving, nurturing nature, right? And some people still haven't learned those lessons. And so they're still more competitive, more manipulative, more prideful, more egotistical, more defensive. And just like you could feel that way towards some people in your life, some of those people could feel that way towards other people in their life too, you know. It's all kind of relative. We can all know different people, and we could think some people are immature or bossy or controlling or whatever. They in turn could think other people are kind of bossy and controlling, you know. And so it can all be relative, where you could be standing up kind of defending yourself, maybe not in a foundation or a relationship, or quit a job, a friendship, or relationship with certain people. Those people in turn have people in their life that they're standing up to and not working together with anymore, you know, because we all kind of like to hang out with people who we kind of think are on the same page as us. But just because I might stand up for myself and certain people in my life, those people in turn might stand up for themselves, but it doesn't mean we're still kind of like on the same page, right? Because we all have our ways of viewing life and living life and what we enjoy. But in relationship to some specific people in your life, you know, we're all again looking for people who we think in high vibe Leo energy are inspired to, from love, want to move forward with us, that we're kind of on the same page of what inspires us and what we view as victorious and successful, you know, just in kind of like how we live our life and in our philosophy of life of the Six of Pentacles. You know, these are the kind of the things that I like to go invest my time and energy into. What do you like to go invest your time, energy, and effort into? What do you enjoy? You know, what are you kind of more defensive to? What am I kind of, you know, just are we kind of on the same page? Basically, what we love and what we want to invest our time, energy, and effort into, is it kind of the same? And then the fives can talk about change. You know, we can love people and we could be kind of defensive to the Six of Pentacles, can be kind of letting go of that foundation or job or friendship to go exchange time, energy, and effort with someone else or a different job or friendship. Because we can always be hoping other people will change. And you might know some people in your life, just like you've been there, where you can love some people, but you could have kind of inner conflict dealing with them because your philosophy of life can be kind of different. And again, your philosophy of life can just be how you treat each other, what you think is kind of just and fair in the workplace, in a friendship, in a relationship. And you might know some people in your life that they could be at that stage of life where they're still trying to change other people. And I think as we gain more life experience, you know, we can all have been there and done that, because we kind of think, oh, everybody's like me and everybody's motivated by love and everybody would choose love if they had, wouldn't they? But we've got to realize that people in their free will, not, some people don't want to do love. You know, you take a risk of being hurt if you do love people and actually really invest in people from love. And some people are defensive to that. And then shadowy fire sign energy can be, that anyone can harness, can be that I kind of like more to indulge myself in a relationship. And won't you exchange resources with me, time, energy, and effort? Kind of be defensive to loving yourself and keep defending being in a relationship with me. Because we're in a relationship, we are friends, you are in this job. Aren't you defensive of standing up for yourself and loving yourself enough to go get a different job, a different friend, a different romantic relationship? And some people might be still hoping other people will change. But again, the more you live life, I think you start to understand that, people are, if they were a more authentic, loving, nurturing, just, fair, balanced person, high vibe Taurus, act with character and integrity in a relationship, that's because they made that free will choice to be that type of person. And then we can get in relationships with people where that isn't the truth of who they are. But we think, of course, because I love them and they love me, that of course they're going to exchange operating from their more defensive nature to love, or their more maybe immature nature or materialistic nature or egoic nature, that I'm sure eventually they will detach from that foundation to defend their more hopeful, believing, loving nature. But the whole thing is, they made their own free will choice about the type of person and how they view life. And some people, their philosophy of life is, I never plan to detach from that foundation. That is my truth. And then when we kind of realize it, and high vibe Leo is about being illuminated to the truth, because it's also represented by the Sun card, and the truth sets us free. There can be people in my life, whether they're friends, family, or whoever, that I can have love for. But if I know they have a lot of inner conflict about things that manipulate them within themselves, their fear, their insecurity, their immature nature, other people in their life, the world at large manipulates them. You got to live your life this way, and you got to act this way, and you got to dress like this, and that's the most important thing, and maybe very competitive or something. If they kind of keep defending that philosophy of life, it's kind of like, I love you, but you do you, and, I can love you, I can see you at Christmas, we can be friends in the workplace, in a community, but am I going to get in a more involved relationship if, you're not like a family member or a friend? No. Because I've already been in relationships with people who are like that. And if I want to be in a relationship, high vibe Sagittarius, with people who are motivated and inspired to work through their inner conflict, their defensiveness, those are the people I'm going to invest in. The people who have already done that work within themselves. The people who've already exchanged defending their more immature or defensive or prideful or immature nature to detach from that foundation. High vibe Sagittarius is about higher learning and education, that have learned that if I act in those ways, I can get people to work together with me, or take a job, or be in a workplace or social setting with me. But eventually those people become defensive to me and don't want to come together. The Four of Wands is coming together in joy and celebration, because I'm defensive. And from the 5 to the 7, we have the Two of Wands. From the 7 to the 9 of Wands, we have the Two of Wands. And the Two of Wands is Aries energy. And some of you could be dealing with an Aries, but for other people, Aries energy is about the self. And some people are still more about themselves. They want to be in relationships with other people, but they're still more about themselves. And they're not willing to let go of being more about themselves to detach from that foundation to work together with people in a more balanced way, or walk the talk. Shadowy Taurus can be where it's a more transactional type of relationship. High vibe Taurus is where you walk the talk. You have good boundaries within yourself. You temper your being more about yourself and indulging your more egoic, immature nature to defend love. And some people could be kind of at the crossroads in a relationship where if I were to keep moving forward in this relationship, I do have to detach from that foundation. And some people are kind of going back and forth in the Six of Pentacles, kind of what is my philosophy of life? What kind of relationship do I want to be in? Do I want to be in a relationship where I think people will be willing to be in a more transactional relationship? I might have people in my life who are willing to be in a more transactional relationship with me. Is that the relationship I'm going to defend because I'm defensive of leaving it, or they're defensive of leaving it? Some people can wear a false mask. They try to present themselves as being more just, fair, authentic, emotionally mature, loving, nurturing, or whatever than they really are. And they really do have this inner conflict. But they're trying to get someone who is more balanced and self-disciplined and loving and authentic to keep staying in a relationship with them. And so that's where shadowy Leo can be, where people are trying to manipulate other people. Keep defending this relationship. Keep staying in this job. Don't stand up for yourself. And then if people do some of this inner work within themselves to figure out, why would I stay at this job or in this relationship when these people kind of, I might feel that they tried to get me in my ego. They tried to get me in my defensiveness. They might do things purposely. The Nine of Wands is called the wounded warrior, that they do things that are kind of hurtful and unkind. Why do I keep emotionally investing in people who that seems to be their mode of operating in the world, their philosophy of life? I don't think that's just and fair. But we can all struggle with it when we're in it, right? And it's like, gee, but I don't know. I do, again, we would like the things that we've invested time, energy, and effort into, and especially if we love that job, we love those people, we'd like it to work out. But there can come a time where eventually I've gone back and forth about it enough. If I've been offering love and encouragement, and I've changed, because the fives talk about change, and I've worked through and kind of tempered my ego and some of my past pain and heartbreak or my fears and insecurities to be more inspired, to be more open or authentic or loving or hopeful or believing. And I'm kind of ready to, again, the nines and the tens can talk about, I'm ready to kind of close out an old way of living life and viewing life, just because I have learned these lessons. We live life at these certain phases of life. We meet all these different people in the world, and it's all to help us get more clear about what our truth is and our truth isn't. And we offer love and encouragement to other people in our life to keep exchanging, to keep being inspired by love in the relationship and to believe like in the dream. But part of it is that we've all got to heal and grow and mature ourselves. And for some people to think that, well, no, I think you're defensive because I think you love me, that I think I can act in these more competitive or immature ways, and I think that you're going to want to keep exchanging resources with me. It's like, yeah, I might see you at Christmas, and I might, but how much time am I going to keep spending with someone who I think does act in competitive or immature or whatever kind of ways, or they're hurtful or unkind? I'm going to stand up for my own loving nature. Could we work together? Yeah, I've got to try to work with you the best I can, but I might want to work with you as little as possible, and I might work more with the people who seem to be inspired to work together with me in a more cooperative way. In, like I said, in between here, between the 5 and the 7 of Wands is the 6 of Wands. That's two people that are in 3 of Wands energy, inspired to work together to bring a dream into reality, where we work together. We're both inspired by truth and love and doing equal give and take, acting with character and integrity. Both of us having good boundaries within ourselves, not to indulge our more immature, prideful, competitive, lazy, self-centered, egotistical nature. So I'm going to work more with the people who seem to work together more in that energy than the people who don't. I don't think you're being authentic, or I think you're not who you say you are. You might try to present yourself as a stable, grounded, authentic, loving person, but I don't really think you are. And like in workplaces, which Taurus energy can represent, you know, people can hire people, and initially they could think, or people tell people, oh, I'll change, or I left that job because of these reasons, and then they get in a new job, and as time goes by and they're trying, before the 9 of Wands, after the 7 of Wands, is the 8 of Wands trying to move something forward in a relationship, a friendship, or a workplace. Eventually they start to see that the other person keeps staying back here. They might want to stay in the job or whatever, maybe because of the status or the ego or the image or the money. But it's like, are you inspired to kind of bring the dream into reality? Wanting people who put in work and effort are inspired not just to indulge in it. That's like shadowy fire sign energy. Well, this looks good. This is good for my ego and my image. Can't I just indulge in it? And you're defensive to being defensive to me, so we'll just keep moving forward in it. And eventually, just like it can happen in a workplace where employers become defensive to employees who are like that, people in friendship groups and family dynamics and romantic relationships kind of get tired. You want people to be intrinsically self-motivated to want to work together with you cooperatively. And if you had a dream of a new emotional beginning, and say it's a romantic relationship where people are dating, but the other person seems to be defensive to having that new beginning, it's like, well, you created this illusion that you had moved on from that past situation, or you were just more independent in the world instead of more codependent on friends or family, right? But some people are more codependent, like on friends and family, and they're not very independent. And then they want you to, whatever it is that manipulates them, if it's their friends or their family or the world or their fear or their ego, they want you to let those things manipulate you too. I was like, but those things don't manipulate me. And those people don't manipulate me. And the world at large doesn't maybe manipulate me and my pride or my ego or my lust and my greed, and like it could manipulate you. And I don't know if I want to keep exchanging resources with people who seem to be defensive of letting go of that old dream or a foundation they're aligned with to move forward and have this new beginning. And if one person does this work within themselves where they've changed, they're not the same person they were before, because maybe they learned to love themselves. Maybe they learned to be more inspired to love and believe in themselves. We can all have gotten in relationships. Down below the 5 of Wands, we have the 7 of Pentacles. We all can want to be in relationships and have new beginnings. Up here we have the Ace of Cups, and down here we have the Page of Wands. I want to have this new beginning. I want to be in a relationship. We go communicate with people. We can have our inner conflict. The 7 of Pentacles, Taurus energy again. I want to have friendships. I want to be in a relationship with people. And we can get in relationships with people, and we can move forward in relationships with people. And we're kind of, hopefully, in Leo energy. We can be attracted to people, fire sign energy. And we invest in moving forward in that relationship. And part of it can be because we're single in the 9 of Pentacles. Also, we could be single, independent of an old job, right? So we're looking to find something new to invest in. So we can get in new jobs, friendships, or relationships, or take a new job. We're exchanging resources in that new friendship or relationship. And then underneath that, we have the King of Wands, which is Aries energy again, which is kind of, is this aligned with what I'm motivated and inspired by and what I love? And you need to get to know people to find out kind of what drives and motivates them and how they view relationships and how they like to spend their time, energy, and effort, and how they conduct themselves in the workplace, friendship, or relationship. And then we have the Nine of Wands and the Five of Pentacles. And from the Nine of Pentacles down to the Five of Pentacles, we'd have to let go of the Four of Pentacles. There could have been, are we willing to step out of our comfort zone, basically, to let go of an old foundation, an old way of viewing life, an old relationship, making our life more about the world or a friend group or original family group? Are we willing to let go of that to kind of go on this new adventure? Are we willing to kind of defend having this hope and faith and belief in this new beginning? Or, then we got to really think about, if I become defensive to this situation, those people might let go. I might not want to go have a new beginning, so am I going to keep defending it? But we could get in relationships with people who harness this energy in a more shadowy way. And they could be more immature and maybe haven't learned some lessons that some other people have learned. And the Page of Wands I kind of view as representing all three of the fire sign energy: Leo, Aries, and Sagittarius. Leo, kind of Aries was in here a lot. Sagittarius. Some people in their fire sign energy are still more motivated and inspired by the things of the world. Maybe could be more codependent is what the Page of Wands means. Not very independent. They let all these things and people in their life and their fear or their lust or their greed or whatever kind of manipulate them. And they could just have a lot of lessons to learn. From the One Wand to the Five of Wands, again, is that Four of Wands, which is Aries energy. Am I kind of more about myself? Am I kind of more motivated and inspired by this other foundation or these other people? Do I want to become independent of them? Do I not? If we were to move forward in life, we have to be inspired to want to even change. And some people aren't motivated and inspired to change because it might require them to get more balanced within themselves. And they might be kind of tipped out of balance where they're more aligned with their worldly nature or being more about themselves. And in order to move forward in something else, it would require them to get more balance within themselves. And that does take work and effort. You have to quit indulging being more about yourself or your competitive nature, indulgent nature, self-indulgent nature, competitive nature. If you want to be in relationships with people who aren't competitive, and if any of you have been in a relationship with someone who's competitive, it's kind of like, even if you're just friends or you're in a romantic relationship, it can be that they have some growing up and maturing to do, but the way they could build their self-esteem is to kind of try to do things to make you get in your ego or in your defensive nature because it kind of makes them feel powerful. But it's a false sense of empowerment because it only lasts as long as the other people are defensive and like wounded. But some people, that is how they try to drive their sense of feeling powerful in the world. Being hurtful, being unkind, being prideful, being stubborn, being competitive, being petty, envious, jealous, whatever. Because it's a false sense of empowerment. But then when other people, initially they can be defensive, but when those people don't want to stay in that energy. They kind of offer love to the situation and to themselves, and they realize, I don't have to understand why you are the way you are, but you kind of showed me the truth of who you are, and I'm going to move away from you, and I'm not going to keep exchanging more time, energy, and effort with you, and I'm going to protect my more loving nature from people in the world who've shown me that they are kind of maybe stubborn or full of themselves or selfish or greedy, immature. And then when some people are kind of enlightened to the truth about who they are, then those more immature, shadowy people, some of them can be kind of sad because it was great being in a relationship with the loving, nurturing people in their life, but the loving, nurturing people aren't willing to indulge them in their poor behavior anymore. So then they could decide, I'll just go invest in someone else who's single. And then they kind of repeat this pattern again. Like, I want to be in a relationship, but a little more because of their wants, their needs, their lusts, their greed, their pride, their ego. But they kind of could have a lack mentality, is what the Five of Pentacles can talk about. Or they have this more worldly view of life, which it can be where people should want to be in a relationship with me, but I shouldn't have to learn lessons in life to go from the Five of Pentacles to the Six of Pentacles. You'd have to learn some lessons in life about being maybe more just and fair in a relationship, acting with character and integrity, high vibe Taurus energy. And some people are like, no, I shouldn't have to do that. I have some inner conflict about standing up to my more self-indulgent nature to do more equal give and take. It does require me to have better boundaries within myself. And I'm okay living my life the way I live it. So you can go do what you want to go do, and I'm going to go do what I want to go do. And then some of those people, it's like, I'm just going to go find someone else who might be a loving person, who has some inner conflict about standing up for themselves. They want to be in a relationship, and they could be kind of defensive. And if I feel like I could go get in a relationship with them, and if I were to get them in a relationship with them, it maybe works out good for my ego and image, and I'm in a relationship with someone who seems loving and nurturing and authentic and warm and inspired. And it looks like I've moved forward and like I've changed and I've healed and I've grown and matured. Like I'm a different person, but they really didn't do that work within themselves. Just like someone can leave a job because people had inner conflict dealing with them, but instead of them dealing with the truth and seeing where they need to heal or grow or mature themselves, it's like, no, I'll just go get a different job. And then I'll create this illusion of how wonderful my job is or how wonderful this new relationship is. And eventually the people in the next relationship or the job kind of see the truth eventually, and they become defensive to being working with them. You know, if you don't ever change yourself, it can always be hoping to find someone who's just still willing to indulge you in your poor behavior. We can offer love and encouragement and support to other people, but until they're willing to kind of detach, again, the Nine of Pentacles down to the Five, there's some foundational way of viewing life or living life, which it's kind of surrounded here. Taurus energy of having a philosophy of life that, I don't know, because they're charming or they're attractive or they're I don't know, maybe have stability or security or power or influence or something, or they're just full of themselves. They think, no, I don't have to detach from that old way of being. If things don't work out the way I want and I feel left out in the cold, instead of being inspired to work through where I need to heal or grow or mature, I'm just going to keep repeating the same pattern. And, it's one thing to try to find people who are on the same page as you. And for one thing, if they are more shadowy, more immature, more stubborn, more prideful, more materialistic, more whatever, shadowy, more based, they should get in relationships with people who are more on the same page as them. But sometimes the shadowy people try to get in relationships with high vibe people because they want to seem like a high vibe person, or they just want to enjoy being in a relationship with someone who's kind of more emotionally mature, tempered, and loving and nurturing. But they could be much more inspired by the world and ego and image than love. And then it just keeps being a mismatched relationship. But they might not like being in relationships with people who are like themselves, because then no one is being the more creative, inspired, loving, encouraging person. But they don't want to change, so they just keep trying to get kind of like trap a more loving, encouraging person in a relationship, hoping that even when that person kind of feels left out in the cold and defensive in the relationship, they've been offering love and encouragement for them to move forward with them in a more loving, hopeful, believing way. But the other people are like, nope, I have my way of viewing life. You have your way of viewing life. I am not willing to detach from this way of how I view relationships. And I think it's just and fair, basically, or they wouldn't be doing it. And eventually, some of the high vibe people in their life have to work through all their inner conflict about why they don't harness these energies in a more high vibrational way, face their fears of detaching from these people, standing up for their more hopeful, believing, loving nature. And some of those people, just like some of you did, there's other people in the world that are like, I'm done. Kind of like in the Five of Pentacles. I'm turning my back to some of these people in my life because they want to keep repeating this old pattern. And I've kind of seen why. Maybe I'm just a very loving and encouraging person, but if I keep trying to hope other people will change and they keep not being inspired to change, I need to deal with the truth, because the truth sets me free. The only person I can change is me. And this whole experience could have been to get people who are more inspired by hope and faith and belief and love to stand up for themselves, and to get more balance within themselves and stand up and protect their more hopeful, believing, loving nature from more immature, maybe stubborn, prideful, competitive people. And some of those people are now going to take this action to change. And yeah, I think some of the shadowy people in their life will feel a little left out in the cold, but some of them are just unwilling to deal with the truth of it. So they'll think the answer is to go indulge in these things of the world or relationships to find someone who's more on the same page as them. Anyway, let's go see what's coming up. For people who harness some high vibe Leo energy, who have done this inner work to get more balance within themselves and to move forward in life and stand up for their own hopeful, believing, loving nature, let go of an old dream, maybe exchanging resources with people. The people in your life, standing up and defending the people in your life who do work together with you in that more loving, balanced way. What's coming up for them that they might not see coming? We have the Knight of Cups, and the reason is because of the Seven of Pentacles and the Eight of Cups. You invested in offering yourself that cup of love to not keep investing in an illusion. The Eight of Cups walks away from the Seven of Cups. And the Seven of Cups can be people that we have love for, but they're still more caught up in the illusion of themselves, this philosophy of relationships. And you could just feel like they're not more independent from their more shadowy nature or other people in their life. And you're going to love and believe in yourself enough to offer yourself that cup of love. I'm not going to live a life of illusion. If people aren't being high vibe Leo, authentic, loving, encouraging, putting in work and effort to work together with me in a just and fair way, motivated and inspired to move forward, being more independent of their shadow nature and the past, to have new beginnings from love, then I'm going to go find people who are. And I'm going to be careful, is kind of what the Seven of Pentacles can talk about who I do invest in. Because from the 6 to the 7, I've learned these lessons in life. And I think when we were younger, and maybe the first 30, 40 years of our life, we're all kind of can be more codependent, can be more caught up in the world and these things that we're motivated and inspired by that we are sure will make us happy, and all these things that now people are kind of more tipped in favor. I view the 7s as kind of being tipped in favor more so in one side or the other. And now people are more tipped in favor of being more independent themselves, maybe being more aligned, because we have this dualistic nature and we have to make a decision. Do I have hope and faith and belief and love in myself and in my dreams? Am I still more about the world? Am I still going back and forth? And some high vibe people, I pick my path, and my path is I live in the world. I want, yes, some of these things like we all do in the world. I want stability and security, and I would like to be in friendships and relationships. But I'm more willing to let my more emotionally intuitive, loving nature guide me. Shadowy energy could be where I did let my more codependent nature, my lust, my greed, my worldly nature, my competitive nature, my fear. Because I previously could have been more defensive to listening to my intuition. But it's kind of realizing I can either think I only have these things of the world to work with, but I think there's more to work with than that. And the whole thing is we were given our intuition. And then I just think, in a world of duality where there's free will, there's like life-giving energy, which is the big picture is represented by God. That is this creative life force energy that wants to give birth to new things, and our shadow nature, which really doesn't have our best interests, and shadowy people and negative energy in the world that wants to keep repeating this old pattern because they don't want to give birth to anything new or step out of their comfort zone, or letting fear and all those things run their life, at the big picture represented by the devil. And it's like seeing through the illusion of how your own fear, your own insecurities, you're being caught up more in the world, and realizing I have more to work with than just these things of the world. And that's like coincidence and synchronicity and magic. And I just started watching a series on Tubi. It's only 13 episodes, but it's called Believe. And it's kind of about that, about these synchronistic things. And that's what I think is like life force energy trying to work with us if we kind of pay attention to our intuition and listen to the signs and don't stay in denial and emotional confusion and illusion about people when they show you I'm competitive, I'm immature, I'm defensive, I'm more materialistic, I'm bossy, I'm controlling, I'm defensive. It's like, I wish you peace, but I'm going to invest more of my time, energy, and effort into people who seem to want to have better boundaries within themselves and have learned some of the same life lessons I've learned. And I think as you move forward in that energy, there's going to be other people who are going to want to invest in you because they see that you're not taking more immature action in the world, getting in relationships because, well, that seems to make practical, logical sense, or this is a good investment, and I'm single and they're single and we both feel left out in the cold. Let's just get in a relationship because we're in our ego. That's not the best reason to get in a relationship, And some people could have done that. And the whole thing is, when we kind of aren't letting love and intuition guide our decisions, and we take action to get in relationships for other reasons, which we've probably all been there and done that, we can get ourselves in jobs and friendships and relationships, and then we're kind of defensive and feel left out in the cold because, again, we could have thought everybody's motivated and inspired by love, but they're not. And we maybe didn't take that time to stand up for ourselves and know our worth and value and believe in ourselves. And, we kind of gave in to our maybe lustful nature, attracted to people, and then we can get ourselves in things, and then it's kind of hard to get ourselves out, and it's confusing to get out, and our ego's kind of involved. And there could be some people right now that are in those jobs, friendships, or relationships, and they could feel left out in the cold, and they'd like to have new beginnings or get a new job. But in order to do all that, the Five of Wands is it could cause some conflict in their life. Other people could not be happy about it. In their own ego nature, they struggle with it. I would have to do this work to stand up for myself, and in the Nine of Pentacles, know my worth and value. And from the 7 to the 9 of Pentacles, I'd have to quit juggling and going back and forth, and I'd have to choose. And I'd have to get more balance within myself, and I'd have to be more bold and brave and confident. And I'd have to distance myself from letting my more shadowy nature manipulate me. And, we have our dualistic nature, and then we have different people in our life. And some of those people will be mad because if you change and you get more balanced within yourself and you have better boundaries, well, I might not like that because when you didn't, you stayed in this job or this relationship with me. But then there can be other people in our life who are more loving and encouraging and independent, who do offer us love and encouragement to stand up for ourselves and love and believe in ourselves. But we have to make that free will choice within ourselves. And some of the people that the loving people did offer love and encouragement, those people didn't make that free will choice. And then, there's consequences for our actions. And then we could realize, oh shit, those people moved on and I'm still back here doing this. And then they have to decide, well, now am I ready to do this work within myself and stand up for myself? And, sometimes we have to see other people be more bold and brave and confident. And then that can inspire us, or even movies or music or any of those things can be things. And books can inspire us to take that action. And some people could be sad because they did make their life more about these things of the world, and there was people at one time that they maybe could have moved forward with. The whole thing is, though, just because those people move forward doesn't mean if you get out of what you're in, there won't be new people you'll meet. But why stay in situations where you could feel people are being controlling or stubborn or defensive or immature and feeling left out in the cold? I would rather be independent and only exchanging resources with people that are loving and nurturing and supportive than to stay in a situation where I feel like people are acting in these shadowy energies. I love myself enough to love my own authentic inner child nature, not to stay in situations where people are maybe being hurtful or unkind or deceptive or manipulative in some way, because shadowy Leo can just be competitive, and that can express itself in lots of ways. So I think as you move forward in that energy, there'll be other people that see that and will want to invest in you. If nothing else, you'll at least enjoy your life not being in environments with people who are more shadowy. What's coming up, and I think the Ace of Cups is that, it's kind of like the divine rewards you. It's like when you're willing to learn lessons in life, and if life is about learning lessons, it's kind of like my nesting dolls over there. We were 15, we were 18, we were 21, we were 25. It was just and fair for us to live our life at those different age groups and view life the way we viewed it. But did we get stuck and not moving forward in life because somewhere along the way we got more caught up in these things and more afraid of change and weren't listening to our intuition? Well, it's kind of like we won't grow to our full potential of what we could have been if we did kind of go with the flow, and that when our intuition and everything is telling us, this is causing me a lot of inner conflict. I want to become independent of it, but in order to become independent of it, I have to kind of shed that old way of living life and viewing life, and I have to have a new dream, and I have to do this work to believe in myself, and I do have to detach from this old way. And I need to close out this old way of living life and not repeat some of those ways of viewing life and living life. If I want high vibe Pisces of the Knight of Cups and the Nine of Cups, is I have a dream. And the Page of Wands is that hopeful, believing spirit, and the Ace of Cups is in love. I'm not willing to give up my dreams and let my competitive nature, my immature nature, my lustful, greedy, prideful, stubborn nature, and other people in my life or the world manipulate me. I want to live my more authentic life. And my dream can be different than other people's dream. Their idea of living the dream life, like, oh my gosh, should come live life like us, and you should hang out with people like we hang out with, and you should do what we do, and you should act like us, and walk like us, and dress like us. Everybody's got their own life. I am going to be inspired to live my more authentic life. And everybody else can go live their life. And I want to go find people who have kind of wrapped their brain around this game of life. We can all make our life about indulging ourselves, being indulged, indulging other people for certain things. But is that my truth? Is that how I view relationships, basically? The Seven of Pentacles and the Six of Pentacles and is Taurus energy. Some people might be willing to indulge people or want to make their life all about indulging themselves because they think that's living the dream, or for the money or the ego or the status. It's like, I don't want to have to indulge kind of bossy, controlling, immature, competitive, prideful people. I'm going to go find some people in the world who aren't that way to be in a relationship with. What's coming up for some people who might harness a more worldly, shadowy Leo energy that they might not see coming up? High vibe people are moving forward in life. They don't want to repeat an old pattern, and they're going to have these new emotional beginnings because they invested in walking away emotionally from a way of viewing life, viewing themselves, viewing others, viewing the world, to be more authentically themselves in the world, and to stand up and walk the talk of what they believe in. And other people can stand up and invest and enjoy their life, what's their truth. But for some people in the world, your truth was not my truth. And I saw the truth of it. And even though it caused me inner conflict, I wish you peace. I'm moving forward to live my authentic life, and you go live your authentic life. What's coming up for the more worldly, shadowy people that they might not see coming? The truth. Why? Because of the King of Wands, or the Emperor. So, the Emperor and the King of Wands, I both view as Aries energy, which Page of Wands can be that too. The kings in tarot and like the Emperor can be how people present themselves in the world. And everybody can wear a false mask. And there can be men and women who present themselves in the world like they're this, that they've changed, that they're this independent person, that they've learned these lessons in life, that people should exchange resources with them, that they're this loving, creative, inspired person who has good boundaries within themselves. But it's all an illusion. It's just how they try to present themselves. And eventually other people see the truth of it and they realize they're not who they say they are. They're really got a lot of growing up and maturing to do. They could be really more about themselves. Could they have status and image, be attractive, have social clout, have power, whatever? Yeah. But they still can be just immature. They just have these things of the world, but there's no substance. It's like people going out in the world and they look like the same in a way, like, oh wow, this looks like a stable, victorious, emotionally mature person at work. But one person really is who they say they are, and another person isn't. It's just the degrees or the clothes or the money. But they're really quite immature and codependent, like to be in more codependent relationships, are competitive, are defensive, like to be in more transactional relationships, don't really make good decisions in situations when their decisions affect other people because they're more about themselves. And it's more about their wants, their needs, their lust, their greed, their pride, their ego, their status as image. So long as they can get people to be in a relationship with them, as long as it works for them and it's good for their ego and image. But if other people ever want them to detach kind of more from an old way of viewing life or conducting themselves and detach from that foundation to be more motivated and inspired authentically, high vibe Leo energy, from love, oh well, no, I don't do that. I'll be in a relationship with you. I will even maybe make some good decisions in the relationship. But shadowy emperor is operating more from their ego, defensive nature. I'll create the illusion that I'm willing to do all these things, but to really be motivated and inspired by love, be more independent from my more worldly, egoic, defensive energy, no, I'm not willing to do that. And that's when people realize this relationship isn't going to move forward the way I want. Your idea of the 2 of Wands, 3 of Wands, your idea of the dream life is for you to keep operating from your more emotionally defensive, egoic nature, or be more about yourself or ego or image. It's not really love that motivates and inspires you. And eventually, what they don't see coming is the high vibe people in their life see the truth of it. And the high vibe people in their life are motivated and inspired not to give up their dreams and settle for an illusion that by worldly standards could look really good and solid and stable and victorious. Because I want to be in relationships with people who are authentic and loving and warm and encouraging, and that's not really the truth of who you are. You use your emotions manipulatively. You use your sexuality manipulatively. You use your looks or your money or your status manipulatively. But you're not authentically loving. It doesn't you don't freely give of yourself. You might give of yourself for how it benefits you, if you think it will benefit you, but it could be all more of a strategy. And eventually other people decide, I'm leaving. And what they don't see coming is the people who might be willing to stay in a relationship with them could be other people who are more about themselves. I don't want to do love either. I am also defensive to learning lessons in life. I am also defensive to getting out of my self-protective nature, defensiveness to love. I get hurt doing love. I'm willing to be in a relationship with you. So long as it's good for my ego and my image, I'll stay in the relationship and defend you because this is my philosophy of life and I don't align with my more hopeful, believing, loving nature. So I'm willing to be in a relationship. It makes me look like a boss, maybe, some way in the world. And then there's really kind of shadowy people who like to think that they can control and manipulate people. That shadowy 501's Leo energy. I'm the boss. And if there was someone in my life, how dare they think that I should have better boundaries within myself? I could know this person loves me. I know this person wants a dream to come into reality. And that way it can be, it's my way or the highway. And if you want me to be more independent from my ego nature, or being more about myself, or more independent, how dare you? And I think I'm the boss. I know. I am going to let you go or become independent of you. I might go exchange resources with other people so you feel left out in the cold and you have inner conflict. I don't think you'll love and believe in yourself. I think you will come back and do the relationship the way I want. And some of the high vibe people in their life said, no, you keep showing me. I want to do motivated and inspired by love. You apparently want to be indulged in a relationship. Our idea of the dream relationship is different. You want to be indulged. I want us to do love and become more independent of our defensive egoic nature or our more worldly materialistic nature. And if you think you'd be happy being in a relationship that's more transactional, well, you go be in it. If there's someone else you can maybe manipulate, go manipulate someone else. If you're willing to go indulge someone else for those things, to have those things, because what's most important is for you to look like a boss in the world, male or female, you go do it. I'm moving on. And also, when people align with their more shadowy nature, the devil doesn't have your best interests, and your own shadow nature does not have your best interests. It doesn't want you to love and believe in yourself. It doesn't want you to become independent of it. And some of these people that keep giving in to their more immature worldly nature and they think they're living the dream, it's stopping them from growing to their full potential, but they don't want to see the truth of it. But eventually other people see the truth of it. Some people thought, no, I can create this illusion. I can be more immature. I can be more shadowy, bossy, controlling, so long as I create this illusion in the world that that's not the truth of who I am. But by their actions alone, by how other people act and who other people invest in and what drives and motivates them, and that their relationships seem more authentic, less driven by pride and ego and competitiveness and defensiveness, or getting in relationships with, trying to get in relationships with people that they think feel left out in the cold or are more codependent. Other people are in relationships with people who are more independent. They respect each other's worth and value and treat them as their own individuals. And some of these people know, I want to be in a relationship with someone I can control because my own shadowy egoic nature controls me. And then I might have other people in my life who control me, and the world controls me. And I think as people do this over time, they're really kind of going to have a lot of inner conflict because other people do see the truth. That they are more immature, more about themselves, more materialistically or self-driven, and that they see that other people are more independent and loving and have better boundaries within themselves than they do. And then they won't like that because they like to present themselves as their high vibe Leo, but no, you're shadowy Leo. And that'll cause them inner conflict, and they'll be defensive. And they won't understand why other people are aligning with the more authentic, loving, independent people. Well, I have what they have. I look like them. I talk like them. I dress like them. I whatever. But it's not authentic. And other people, it just lacks that spark that comes from being an authentically hopeful, believing, loving person. And then other people maybe don't want to keep staying in a relationship with them. And there's always bigger fish in the sea that it's like, huh, so you're really driven by your ego or your image, huh? Or you kind of are more immature and codependent? Perfect. I like being in a relationship with people like you. I can manipulate you using those things, right? And so just like some of them tried to control other people, and they think they're so smart, there'll probably be someone who comes in their life and is very controlling of them to try to get them to see these things that they make their life about as being so important, ends up controlling them. And they could have all these things of the world that they thought was so important, and then at some future date and time they'll feel defensive to the people that they aligned with because those people didn't want them to grow or heal or mature themselves. And those people are competitive and prideful and immature and bossy and controlling, but they didn't want to see the truth of it or see that about themselves. And even if they don't want to see it about themselves, other people see it, and eventually they kind of have to face the truth of it within themselves, which they might not like. So anyway, there you go, Leo. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.